Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. 3 things you will learn from this episode. Number 1, why you should care about self-care. Number 2, self-care ain't woo. It's table stakes. And number 3, how do you know if you might be in a codependent relationship at work? What do you get when you combine these ingredients? A 2-time TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, a brilliant coach, a recovering people pleaser, an expert on codependency, add a tablespoon of humor, 1 cup of clarity, and a dash of woo. You get my friend, Kathy Love. Kathy is the heartbeat of the Outlier Project and one heck of a wise human and someone I adore. We've been waiting a long time to do this. Welcome to the show, Kath.
Thank you. I've been waiting so long to get here. I'm so happy.
Oh, this is a total joy. So, every show starts the same, and I always ask, would you kindly share a little bit of your incredible story?
It's a long story, but starting from the end, I am right now the product of healing from codependency. And I learned through some life experiences that I was actually responsible for all of the things, let's say, that were happening. And if I wanted to change that, I had to change myself first by looking really, really closely at myself, my relationships, my habits, my beliefs, my behaviors, all of it. And so that's what led me to this journey. And through it all, I kept saying, this has to be happening for a reason. I have to be able to help someone else get through a similar situation. And having been a teacher in my very first career, I've kind of come back around to that teaching part, which I love.
Okay, so you gave us some big animal pictures, but can we go in a little deeper? Because I want people to understand just what you've lived through to make you such an expert now.
So the big one is in my first TEDx, The Choices We Make. That was done 11 years ago, and it was done 2 weeks after my now ex-husband went to prison, which was absolutely devastating to me and my family in every way. Financially, we lost everything. Emotionally, we were just devastated. We ended up moving out of the town where we had begun raising our kids, and we were super involved in the community with friends and family. And leaving that community behind, we moved into the city of Buffalo, which was culture shock for all of us. Even though I had grown up nearby, I had never lived in the city. And we lost our cars and, our house and everything. So it required uh, working through nothing but fear, anxiety about how this was going to play out, from not being able to buy groceries or toothpaste was, always I was like the bottom, um, to being able to choose the perspective on how we were going to handle it and have a vision that it wasn't always going to be like that.
Yeah. I love that you said choose your perspective. And for anyone who's a parent, perspective is huge. You have 3 kids, and to choose a perspective when you've lost everything had to be really freaking hard. And kids don't know how to necessarily do that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, hard is such an understatement. I mean, I was leveled. There were days, there were months, maybe years where it was just hard to get out of bed.
Yeah.
It was hard to show up to work. It was hard to show up to kids' games, as a single mom. And the pressure was just, I was taking on, especially in my codependency, which is taking on everyone else's emotions and feelings and wanting to be responsible to fix everything, I was consumed with not only my own grief and struggling, but also that for my kids.
Yeah.
And I know now that we have each had our own journey and our own lessons to learn through the process. But at the time, I couldn't imagine my life without my husband. I
Mm.
couldn't imagine supporting us financially. I couldn't fathom how this was ever going to work out, honestly.
Yeah. So you take all of that brutal emotion and the utter loss of it all, and you stepped onto a TEDx stage. I mean, that's incredible bravery. How did that first experience go?
Well, it was accidental. At the time before everything kind of fell apart, we were really involved in our community and we had this beautiful little nonprofit where we got local kids, starting with my kids, but spreading out into their schools and their friends. And we were doing all of this giving back. And so I wanted my son, who was only 10 at the time, to do that TEDx. So that was the application I submitted. And when I went to the interview, there was a panel of people and they said all the right things. This is such a great story and we love everything that you're doing. And I started to cry
Mm.
and I said, you have no idea what's really happening. And the one of the women, I'm just always so grateful for her. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand and she said, "You have something to say."
Mm.
And that started I was on the stage 2 weeks later. And so I was kind of thrown into it, but I'm so glad that I did it because the number one thing is that my three kids were there in the audience. And it took away the secrecy of what we
Yeah.
were going through. It made it so that we didn't have to hide
Yeah.
anymore. And that was, even though it was hard, because
Mm.
obviously there was a part of us that wanted it to stay secret.
Course. Well, there's so much shame involved, and to be able to put it out there and claim it as your story. We talk a lot about that on this show, and we've have so many stories of people who have reached absolute rock bottom and have come back. But by claiming that story, and my story is nowhere near as painful as yours was, but getting fired was probably the worst thing I could imagine at work. And once I took that as mine, that becomes part of my fuel. That becomes part of my power. And you do that so beautifully. So, how did
Well,
you take?
beautifully, it's beautiful now,
Yes.
but it's really ugly when it's happening.
Yeah, of
And I made
course.
all kinds of mistakes and I did all kinds of the wrong things that I look back. And I say wrong lightly because I have definitely forgiven myself for the things that
Yeah.
I didn't do the way I wish I had. Um, I can understand looking back what I was going through and why I did the things I did. Honestly, I didn't know better,
Yeah.
or I didn't know. I just didn't know, and it was so much. But I just saw someone posted the other day how resiliency doesn't look resilient when it's happening. It's
No.
and when you're done.
Yeah.
And it was ugly. There were lots of ugly. I remember I had a sales job at one point and I would be sobbing and then
Mm.
I would pick up the phone and start talking and hang up and start sobbing. I mean, it was ugly at
Ugh.
times.
Wow. Okay, so how did you go from that space? You've done your first TEDx to really start to understand self-care.
It took me a long time. I was in survival mode for probably the first 5 years after that first TEDx. And at that about that 5 year mark, I was able to, that's when I met Scott McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had reached out to him because I wanted to get our family back to Connecticut where we had started. And I thought it was better opportunity for them and for myself. So I reached out to him to see if he was with his recruiting company to see if he had something for me, and he didn't. But he said, "Let's just have a conversation, and I'll maybe make an introduction for you." So we have this great conversation, completely honest, because I'm not in an interview, and so I'm
Mhm.
telling him exactly what I want, what I don't want. I'm telling him the whole thing, and he said, "I could use you. I didn't expect this, but I could use you." So I started working for him the next day and was able to get back to Connecticut.
Yeah.
So
And you
that
started
was,
working with him with something new, which was
yes,
the recruiting firm. Yeah.
recruiting, right. The Outlier Project didn't come for a couple of years later, but that move helped me get into back into Connecticut where I it's where I wanted to be. Um, I have so many friends and support, so much support here. My kids went back into schools that were safe and good for them with their cousins and their friends.
Mhm.
It was just a better place for all of us, even though we left behind
Right.
family and friends in Buffalo. And so as I started to get more comfortable, I started to date, and I ended up meeting someone who I thought I had been waiting these 5 years for, and ended up being the greatest lesson because that relationship was an absolute nightmare.
Mm.
Emotionally, in some ways, worse than what I had gone through before. But that was what like brought me to my knees and made me say, wait a second. I chose this person and I chose to stay when I knew it wasn't healthy for me. What am I doing? Why? Why
Yeah.
am I doing this? And that is when I found out about codependency, narcissism, the connection, that beautiful blend of those two personalities and how they work together to create a very unhealthy relationship. So I made it my job to learn everything that I could about codependent healing from codependency, and it is self-care. That's the simple truth. And I have a friend who's a therapist who knew my whole story and watched the healing and ended up asking me to start coaching for him. So that was kind of how I got into the coaching of it.
I love it. So let's break down. We got two things to break down. First, let's break down self-care because I think people associate self-care with meditation and yoga and spa time. What is it really?
It's really whatever it is for you. It could be meditation, it
Mhm.
could be spa time, it could be fencing, it could be
Taking a walk. Yeah.
yeah, it could be absolutely anything. The actual point of it is getting to know yourself well enough to know what works for you,
Mhm.
to know what you need at any given time. And if you bring that back, the only way to know yourself truly and to be in touch with what you need is to be present
Yeah.
and feel your body, to hear what's happening in your thoughts and in your mind. And that happens through our using our breath.
Mm.
So if you go back, if you keep going back down, I always start with the breath as the, excuse me, as the way to figure out what it is we need. And it
Yeah.
is different for every person, but it's not always external. It's not always going to a yoga class
Right.
or doing, yeah, it's just really, it's, it's working on those thoughts in your mind, staying present, building community. It's things that you don't necessarily see,
Yeah.
but they,
And guys, if you are lost and not understanding how to take care of yourself, I've got lots of props for you. So, one, this is Kathy's book, My Self-Care Sht. It's a best-selling book. You can find it on Amazon. And if you like coloring, oh, she made this coloring book. Also, My Self-Care Sht coloring book. Both bestsellers, amazing. So yeah, you can use those as practical guides for things that are going to help you figure out what you need. And I think I love that there's this kind of awakening happening across, I think, the globe, all facets of our life, business and school and whatever. And we're seeing these practices be incorporated so much more. And maybe I'm attuned to it, so I'm noticing it more, but I really do feel like it's a conversation that volume has been turned up on.
so one, I'm speaking tonight locally, and one thing that really shocked me was when I was looking up statistics and things, it kept saying that most people know they need more self-care and most people plan to do it later.
Yes.
It was all about pushing it off. And that is why I talk about self-care that happens every single day,
Yep.
all day long. Right now, talking to you, I'm using my breath to stay present
Yeah.
and not worry about the next question you're going to ask me, or if somebody's liking this episode, or, who came before me. It's just staying present,
Yeah.
being connected so that I know what's coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I mean, hopefully this just feels like you're talking to an old friend, so you shouldn't be stressed or worried. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit on the codependency narcissism paradigm
Yeah.
because I think more people are in that spot than they realize. And how do you recognize codependency? Let's start there.
So a lot of people, um, so a lot of people will connect it with the narcissist, and that's so common. And it's very common, especially in a workplace.
Mm,
And so I definitely want to talk about that. Some of those signs are not speaking up when you have something to say. And usually it's because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing, being judged, maybe losing your job.
mm.
But there are reasons why you're not speaking up because you're not believing that you're either worth that airtime, or you're afraid of some backlash.
Okay. So take that a little further. So how the not speaking up part I get, but how do you, I mean, the people pleasing aspect I think plays a part, right?
Right.
So
Taking on,
you're trying to figure out you're trying to please whoever it is you're trying to work with, talk to, get that promotion from. How do you how do you separate the need for doing a good job to the people pleasing part?
right. So, and that people pleasing can look like taking on way more responsibility than is uh, was the agreement. Like, let's just say that you're taking on job after job because you don't want to say no to someone. So the way you tell if it's a problem or not, because it's never it's not bad to want to do a great job or impress, the way you know is how you're feeling.
Mhm.
If you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling taken advantage of, burned out, stressed, and so many people across all industries are burning out
100%.
because of the lack of boundaries. And so the boundaries are the solution to the people pleasing,
Mhm.
and it is being able to say no or create some kind of limit to protect your energy. So that's when you know. Because every behavior that's on the list of codependent behaviors, we all do them.
Sure.
Just when we take them to an extreme and we're not taking care of ourselves
Mhm.
and filling ourselves up with whatever it is we need, that's when there's a problem.
Yeah, I've seen that so many different ways, so many different times, and when you've completely lost yourself in the all the machinations that are going on at work, you need to stop and take a breath and check your own temperature. Like,
Right.
how do you feel about where you are? And so many people are just in that like forward momentum where they don't know even how to stop it. And I got great advice from a leader once who said, Linz, they will take as much as you give.
That's right.
Stop being the first person to answer every email. Stop being the first person to dial in to every call. Just take a breath, let people arrive and let people answer because you don't need to be the first one to do it all. You just don't. And it really took her saying that for me to say, you know what? They are going to take as much as I give. And I need to give a little bit less.
Well, it's a great point because most people approach boundaries or they'll say, well, I have boundaries, but they always cross them.
Sure.
That's not the way it works.
No.
We don't, people don't cross our boundaries. We allow them or we don't. The
Yeah.
boundaries are for us to enforce, not for them to listen to us.
Mm.
So if we say, don't call me after 7 o'clock,
Don't
they
pick up.
call you. Exactly. They can call you at 7, 8, 9. They can call you 100 times.
Yeah.
You don't answer the phone.
Yeah. That's really important. I think reinforcing those boundaries. It's one thing to say, I'm gonna not take calls after 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a Friday. If you don't follow through, or you have the leaders that say, okay, guys, on Friday, we're not gonna do any internal calls except for this Friday
Yeah.
because we're gonna we're gonna
Right.
meet on
Except for
Friday.
this
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Right.
And they don't stop themselves. So everyone needs to be accountable for their actions. And I love that you teach that. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I love the temperature, checking your temperature, just
Yeah,
checking in with yourself. How do you feel? Are you constantly anxious? Are you feeling like you're getting enough
right.
rest? Just the basics. Are you eating healthy foods? Are you getting 10 minutes outside or of a quick walk? Something, whatever it is, I always go back to the basics. If those aren't happening, there's something off balance.
Right. Well, and you and I both know that part of self-care is community and friendship.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's reaching out to a friend that you respect and admire and just getting a good little kick in the tush of, hey, can I check myself on this? But the other piece that you and I enjoy so much is the Outlier Project. And this is a community that I know has changed both of our lives in so many ways. Um, Talk a little bit about your role in the Outlier Project and, what it's done for you.
It has absolutely changed my life. One thing that Scott McGregor has started saying recently is see who you can become. The Outlier Project, see who you can become. And I have watched myself become the best version of myself over time, but really in the last 6 to 9 months. And that came directly from spending really good quality time
Yeah.
with my outliers, with the men and the women who see me, who see that in me,
Yeah.
who encourage it and aren't afraid to say it and um, support me and just really allowed me to be my best self. And it has changed everything for me. And
Yeah.
I'm specifically talking about the retreat where we spent four
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched you transform and it's been so thrilling to see you find your voice and your power and your heart is so big. So for anybody that gets to enjoy a piece of that,
I
it's
just told someone last night about that story that I came home from the retreat after 4 days of being my best self. And when I got home, I didn't feel it anymore. And I said, I wasn't faking it when I was there. So what was it? And I went through all of the things, what was happening in my mind, what was happening in my environment, what was happening with the people that I was around. And that let me just close the gap.
yeah.
And it's been life-changing.
Well, and I think for people that aren't a part of the Outlier Project, they probably hear us talk about it a lot. But I think the thing that has been so life-changing is you are surrounded by people who choose to be extraordinary. We choose to lift each other up. We choose to celebrate each other's wins. And it could be something really small, it could be something really big, but we show up for each other. And there's a phenomenon that's happening right now with us where a lot of us are traveling. And, is anybody in Toledo, Ohio? Is anybody in
Yeah.
Chicago? Is anybody in Baltimore? And we're finding each other. And that energy exchange has become so addicting
Mm.
because you're operating at such a soul charged level. You're going way beyond the, you know, tell me what's going on with work because
Oh,
that's just a
yeah.
piece of it. So I love that so much.
My inside joke with myself is that as the chief community officer, I'm responsible for onboarding every new member.
Yep.
And so as I give them a tour through the platform, I'm showing them the page that has all of the pictures of our members
Right.
and I say, "Oh, she's my favorite. Oh, he's my favorite. Oh, she's my favorite. Oh, he's my favorite." And I just laugh because every single person in there is my favorite. I love these people. They are my best friends.
Yeah. I feel the same, and they've become my entire personal board of advisors. I can lean on them for anything, and they all have different things they bring to the table. So, you're not going to get the same exchange from one person as you might from someone else. So I love that. So what inspires you?
Helping other people. Helping other people just to see things maybe differently, to see possibility, to have hope,
Love
to see that, yeah, to see that change is possible.
that. And what would you like your legacy to be?
Mm. I think it would have to be the choices I've made. And that's one of the things that's hard to see too, is we see the choices we make.
Mhm.
We don't see the choices we didn't make. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of ways that this could have gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of myself for a lot of the choices that I have made and I think made the most out of what I went through.
Well, you just finished your second TEDx, but what's next for you?
I hope to be, I loved being on that red dot, and I love being able to share with a lot of people part of my story, but also a lot of the how-tos and some of the things that people haven't necessarily thought of connected to codependency or self-care. So I really would like to be able to speak to more people. I continue to coach, and we'll see. We'll see. I'm working on that plan.
All right. Well, guys, please connect with Kathy. Where can they find you?
I am on LinkedIn, Kathy Love, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm on all the socials. So
Beautiful. And
Facebook,
we'll
yeah.
put all that in the show notes.
Well, and my website is myselfcaresht.com. That has everything on it.
Love it. I love it. Guys, please connect with Kathy. And if you liked what you heard, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a 5-star review at Apple or Spotify. Those reviews help me grow the show, help me get the guests, and continue on this beautiful journey with conversations just like this. So, Kath, you're the best. I love you so much. And guys, get out there, go lead with heart, and have a great day. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.